Xbox is rolling back the price change. It's not every day that the little David takes on the Goliath of Xbox and comes out ahead, but Microsoft and Xbox and all their studios are announcing the gaming changes that they should say the pricing changes they announced earlier this year. They're not going to be sticking, so let's just dig in here. So this is going to apply to everything we'll talk about here, but the Outer Worlds has announced that, hey, games are no longer going to cost $80. Instead, they're going to stay to $70. And that's a pretty big deal because Microsoft came out earlier this year and said their holiday launch games are going to be $80 a piece. Now, this matches a strategy that Nintendo has gotten away with, at least with the Switch 2. And Microsoft's like, well, we're going to pick up those extra 10 bones or dollar dues every time somebody buys one of our first party titles, and they're not in Game Pass. So $80 it is. And then this led to speculation that Game Pass pricing would go up and a whole bunch of other stuff. However, they announced today that they're rolling that pricing back, which it doesn't take a lot of logic to jump to the conclusion I'm going to jump to here is that pre-orders probably were not meeting expectation and that the backlash did potentially have impact. Now, someone will say, Brad, this is actually a 4D chess move. They said they're going to raise prices. Here they are dropping prices and getting you to talk about their pre-orders yet again. That is entirely plausible. However, we've seen how Xbox maneuvers and Microsoft itself maneuvers. I'm not going to give them that much credit. I think it aligns to that pre-orders were not meeting expectations, and they believe that the higher price is really playing into that. And so the calculus comes out and says, if we lower the price, we'll get another PR wave, and hopefully more people will then pre-order or go out and buy the game, and we should be good and get things back onto the track of where we expect. However, there's also the very realistic fact that everything is getting more expensive and the consumer continues to get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed until we eventually pop, and that's called a recession. Let's hope that doesn't happen anytime soon. But price inflation has been a very real thing, and so maybe gaming is that premium thing that is really going to start to kind of claw back or starting to show the cracks. That an extra $10 for a game is actually too much, and so there you go. Now, they did give out a statement to a lot of the press, and I grabbed Windows Central because I like Jez over there at Windows Central, and they said, Microsoft said, we're focused on bringing players incredible worlds to explore, and we'll keep our full-priced holiday releases, including The Outer Worlds 2, at $69.99, in line with current market conditions, credited to an Xbox spokesperson. So it's a shift. I want to point out, too, that Microsoft earnings, by the way, are happening on July 30th. So next week from the time of this recording here. I will be gone and on vacation, so I will not be covering that at my usual timeline. It'll probably be about a week later. But I'm wondering if this all kind of plays into that as well. Because, right, they're going to come out and part of me is Xbox revenue and everything else is extremely important. But also at the same time, they don't really talk too much about Xbox console sales at all. Game Pass figures really in any meaningful way, just the service revenue as it all bundled up. So anyways, prices are rolling back. That is a good thing for you, dear consumer, if you're not paying for Game Pass. And there you go. So, the little guy won for once, but maybe it was just a little bit of an artificial win. So I don't know. There you go. I was going to end it right there, but then I forgot to say, the BS on this channel is me.